We're live again.
Oh.
Second live stream today. We went over the Ryoki Sasaki stuff. If you guys were here watching before, I went on my little rant about that, which wasn't too crazy. And I was so focused on the Ryoki Sasaki stuff, I didn't think about the other Japanese player signing. I want to word that improperly, but the Mariners signed one, and it went right over my head. But now Jake's here because he's probably one of the most positive guys I know. And yeah. I need some positivity, because if you guys see the thumbnail that's popped up here as you come to this video, that's how I feel. Like, Shintaro Fujinami is not a new guy from Japan. He's been in the league for 3 years. He's been on three different teams. Is this his fourth? Or is
I think it's only been A's, Orioles, Mets.
So this is his fourth team.
Yeah.
In 3 years. No, in 2 years. He started in 2023. And I understand so they signed him to a minor league deal. I don't know the specifics about the money or anything like that, but oh my gosh, I understand. I'll put this caveat. I understand the Mariners are fantastic with pitching development, right? And Shintaro can throw 103 miles an hour. That's awesome. He's a Paul Skeens power pitcher, like, as far as ability goes of getting that ball across the plate. But this dude has zero control. It's when I looked at it, it was, what was his Ks per nine? It was like 10 Ks per nine, but his walks were like 9. 9 walks per 9.
Yeah.
So zero control. Like, nobody can hit him, but I instantly think of Vaughn from Major League. Wild Thing. Like, he can't. He can't. Nobody can hit him because he throws so hard, but he can't throw it over the plate. So maybe he just needs glasses. That's the only takeaway I have from this, and that's my optimism. We just need to get him a good eye doctor, and he'll know exactly where to throw the ball. And voila, we have a 6-man rotation. Roki can't even stand up to this. This guy is so much better. That's just my initial reaction to this, because his ERA career-wise, which is only 2 years, 7.18. He has a negative 2.1 WAR in 2 seasons. In fact, I don't think he pitched last season because nobody wanted him. So give me some positivity.
I think I can. Okay. And yeah, I would say I'm definitely one of, at least in the Mariners space, one of the more positive people. Part of that is, since I'm a newer Mariners fan, I have not been damaged as severely over the years as some of my peers. And I want to make sure I'm as clear as I can that I recognize that privilege. And that's probably why I'm able to see kind of the silver linings of more things. Now, with Fujinami, I would say people were pretty positive about the signing in general from what I saw. And there's a couple reasons for that. I mean, one, it's a minor league signing, so it's not like we're, this is some huge deal necessarily. I mean, at the end of the day, he's probably going to start the year in Tacoma, which is the right call. So, if anyone thinks this is like somehow going to affect the 26-man roster, at least immediately, it's not. It could later on in the season, potentially. I don't know if it's a multi-year minor league thing or if it's just one. I feel like those are usually only 1 year. So, yeah, as you mentioned earlier, I mean, the Mariners' pitching development is known. I mean, we call it the pitching lab for a reason. They're able to take these kind of misfit relievers that have some really solid parts of their game and some other not so solid parts of their game, and find ways to basically fix them. I mean, and just straight up, like, they can just straight up fix some guys and turn them into pretty solid relievers. And Fujinami has some really big positive points for him, or things that are going for him. Now, first off, he's not going to be a starter. Like, let's be clear. There is absolutely no chance in hell that the Mariners are going to use him as a starting pitcher. He is going to be a reliever. I just cannot see them even trying that, because I know he's tried it before in the majors. That some teams have tried to make him a starter, and I don't see the point, especially with his the arsenal that he has. And that's really his biggest plus, is the arsenal he has is crazy. I mean, he has some huge upside in both the velocity, as we said. I mean, he can touch 103, so he has that huge velocity, but also, I mean, he has some just straight up nasty off speed and breaking pitches. The problem is that he can't throw strikes. And, you know, sometimes that can be an unfixable thing for a guy, especially, let's say, if it is kind of like a mental block. However, there can be mechanical changes that can be made to help a lot. And the Mariners, if anyone, is going to be the best organization to do that and figure out what the problem is. Now, the first thing I think of in the top of my head, and mind you, I am not a pitching coach by any means. I'm just a fan. However, the guy can touch 103. Cool. Well, that reminds me of a sign I saw that went viral in spring training a few years ago with the Nationals. They had a sign on the back of their bullpen behind the catchers that said, "I don't care how hard you throw ball 4." And I think that's the perfect, like, mantra for Fujinami, right? If it's awesome you can throw 103. It doesn't matter if it's ball 4, though. If he can't throw strikes, his velocity means quite literally nothing. And so I would imagine, and it's just me assuming here, because once again, I'm not a pitching coach, they're probably going to find some mechanical issues to help with that. And they're probably going to be like, dude, you don't need to throw as hard as you can. If you can touch 99 like that in today's game, that's still really good. But if you can throw it for a strike, then awesome. Like, that is the obvious fix for him, as far as, you know, or the biggest part of his game that he needs to work on to be an effective pitcher is that. Because if you can't place your best pitches in the zone, then hitters are simply not going to respect any of your pitches. And he has a great arsenal. It's just a matter of, can he place it where he needs to? I mean, for example, his cutter was phenomenal in 2023, a batting average against of 171, a whiff rate of 38.2. And so he has a good pitch there. And some of his other pitches were not great. His four-seamer was a 243 batting average, which for a four-seamer is a little bit higher than you would like, right? And I was looking at his Savant page, and I'm not trying to be, you know, Mr. Bubbles red and blue here. I actually want to look at his heat map, where he's locating things. And I mean, you can kind of see he's all over the place, especially with that sweeper, man. I mean, look at the sweeper in that heat map. He has no control over that whatsoever. And if you look at the heat map on Baseball Savant for a sweeper, I mean, there's a huge red zone right, like, down the plate, right in the middle low, right where people are going to smack it. It's the same thing with, like, his split finger. It seems like he's getting that to the bottom of the plate. But then you look at his four-seamer, which, I mean, granted, with the velocity, I mean, I'm not going to fault you for putting it middle. But still, like, if that is the only way you can, because he's not looking, you can see he's not really, like, painting. If you look at his heat maps, it's a little bit below that where you're at right now.
Yeah, I was just going off of this, so people had a visual there, but
yeah. So if you look at that, right, look at his four seamers. He's not really painting at all. He's just putting it right in the middle of the zone.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. And then, like I said, with that sweeper, I mean, look at that sweeper graph. How gross is that, you know? Especially that red zone right in the middle. So
even his cutter is...
but his cutter was good, which is what's good, crazy. So yeah. I think it just has really good movement, probably. I'm not really necessarily good at, like, when you look at, like, the induced break and stuff. I don't necessarily know what all of that means yet, but Just looking off the stuff I do, I mean, Savant has that nice little tool where it shows you like similar pitches or pitchers based on his pitch types, his velocity and movement. I mean, we're looking at 2023 Brian Wu is listed, right? So he has great stuff. We know Wu has great stuff. So this guy has good stuff too. The problem is he just doesn't throw any damn strikes, and he clearly can't locate for quality strikes and paint at all. So
His curveball looks great.
yeah, exactly.
That
Yeah,
one pitch, that one time he tried
that
it, it
one
worked.
time. Exactly.
I mean,
So yeah, and then it just his general slider that's not a sweeper, which I don't know how they differentiate the two. I don't really know, but look at that. That's right in the middle of the plate too for a slider. So that's my thing is if there is any organization in baseball to take this guy in with the raw stuff he has and turn him into a valuable reliever, the Mariners are that organization. And it's just a minor league deal. So if you can't, you're not losing anything. But if you do, I mean, this guy could be a legit diamond in the rough. Now, we could get all the way through 2025, and he may not make the major league roster at all. He may have a 7 ERA in Tacoma, and then that's that. And they DFA him or release him or whatever they have to do. But I think the fact that pretty much everyone you saw on your timeline that makes content and keeps track of players, you know, the Locked On guys, Mariner Mojo guys, Jage, who's really knowledgeable about stuff. Everyone was like, hell yeah, we got him. And there's a reason why, because his stuff is electric. It's just, can he place it?
Yeah, if he can locate it. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still not sold on it because it's just like even the last season. I'll go back to it. Like his cutter, like you said, is probably his best pitch. There, I mean, the batting average against his is at 171, but like his fastball 243. Like that's not terrible, but it's not good. His sliders god awful. Oh, I guess that was that's the reason why he never threw his curveball again because it
just gotten slammed.
So it's he's very much in favor of his high heat, but he's not placing it, and they seem to, if they make contact, that exit velo is pretty damn strong. That
well, he throws hards, right? Yeah. So I mean, if they hit it well on the bat, I mean, it's going to be a high exit velocity, whatever. Yeah. It's the same thing with Munoz, right? If he throws a 102 mile an hour fastball and they get barrel, I mean, they could swing half ass and it's going to go out of the yard.
But they should also incorporate that curveball because he threw it once, but that's going to throw him off. A 75 mile an hour curveball.
Yeah, refine that a bit. Yeah, and that's the thing. When you say you're not sold on it, I mean that's the luxury of this being just a minor league signing. Like you don't really necessarily have to. But that's once again, we can talk all day about just like the Mariners pitching lab. If there's anywhere for this guy to go to figure it out, and for them to be like, because we've learned this from like the Saucedo interview last year on the Marine Layer. He basically said, when he came into the org, they sit you down and they don't say what you're doing wrong. They just simply say, this is what you do well. You're going to do more of that. And look, Saucedo's been, pretty valuable. I mean, everyone has their hiccups, whatever. So people could be like, oh, well, whatever. But it's the same thing with all these relievers, right? Like Matt Brash is a perfect example of this. I mean, I think for the first little bit of the time he was in the major leagues, he wasn't very good. And he was actually, I think, a starter initially in Tacoma or in the minor leagues in general. And they decided to make him a reliever. And look, he's one of the best relievers in the game when he's healthy. I mean, at least he was in 2023. He was arguably I would say the best reliever in the game, partially because look at how many innings he threw. I mean, he threw 70-something plus. So it's just one of those things where they might be able to tweak some mechanics. They might be able to change up his pitch mix a bit to maybe favor him. And, it's just, he has that stuff where like, if they can find a way to fine tune it, man, he could be a killer. It's just, We won't know. I mean, we're not going to know until All-Star break, to see what his Tacoma numbers are and if they figured something out. This also reminds me,
that long just because of the fact
he
that
might not.
yeah, I mean he just might not figure it out, but also injuries where he gets brought up because who else are we going to bring up? I mean, you might
Yeah.
have Logan Evans or I don't know if I bring up anybody else just because at least he's been up there in the majors and like we can see if the changes have helped. They're obviously going to make changes. They have to.
Yeah.
Like you can't just be like, you're good. Go out there. Like,
yeah,
it's not going to work. Sorry.
Well,
Continue what we were saying.
you're fine. It's just there's kind of a thing that national media people have even picked up on, and I don't remember who said it on Twitter. It might have been Jordan Schusterman of Cespedes Family Barbecue or someone else. But they basically said, like, if you see the Mariners pick up a reliever you've never heard of, there's a reason they picked him up. Like, they don't just get guys for the sake of getting guys. They probably saw something that they know that they can implement to try to help his game. And that's where, the positivity comes in, right? Because trust me, I understand when you look at his numbers without looking at his, kind of the deeper inner workings of what's going on with him. I understand it looks super ugly. You're like, this dude should never play in the majors again. I 100% understand that. But it's like you watch him pitch and you watch the stuff that he has. You understand, like, there is something there, but it's like if he can just throw strikes and find a way to locate those pitches, maybe change up the pitch mix a little bit, you're like, I know this dude could do something. It's just a matter of, can the Mariners be that organization to get that out of him? We don't know, but if there is any organization to do that, it's Seattle. So
Seattle,
yeah,
the Rays or the Dodgers, I guess, but the Dodgers, they have an endless money pool, so they can just get the good guys anyways and make them better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, that's what they just did. Or anybody will just go to them and they'd be happy. It's it makes me wonder if this is their version, if this is the 2025 version of Dallas Keuchel when they signed him
last year. You mean?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm wondering if this is their version of it. Like it's just an arm to add in case. Because
it's a different thing though with Keuchel. I think you say Keuchel.
Yeah.
He was a veteran who's been there, done that type guy, and you're just kind of seeing if maybe you can find something with him to get that kind of like second wind out of him. Maybe this guy
second wind 10 years later.
Yeah, I know.
He was great in 2014, 2015.
Yeah, so see if you can kind of get that little extra out of him. Whereas with Fujinami, it's just a matter of he just has such raw stuff. Can you refine it to be a quality reliever in the MLB? And like I said, I don't know. Maybe they won't. If they don't, you're not losing anything than a minor league deal who really gives a crap. I mean, that's not going to affect the 26-man roster that we all ultimately care about. It's just, if they fail, oh well. If they don't, this dude has potential. I mean, the potential's there. Just hope that they can figure it out, because if they can, he could be a really fun pitcher. I've seen some people referring to him like kind of like a Matt Brash type, just because of just his straight raw stuff is there. Mm-hmm. He could be really fun to watch if they can figure something out with him.
If they, and I don't want to hold it against them. I think that they can figure it out for him, but it's like I guess I'm tired of when it comes to relief pitching, it's always like this. Like we never sign a great relief pitcher. It's like, let's go get someone who should be good that isn't good now, but maybe he'll be good later if we can develop him. It's like, let's do the hard route versus like, let's cement the bullpen we already have. It needs help. It was great in 22. It was good in 23. It was terrible in 24. So let's refresh it. you know, and you know what? Go out and get another lefty reliever arm because we only have two. And I like Salcedo. He didn't do that great last season, but that can be adjusted, you know. But only having two options is not really the greatest. And then, you know, when we see all these additions of pitchers, well, I shouldn't say all, like the couple of minor league deals, the righties, the righties, yeah, they can throw hard, but they have a lot of control issues. And I don't know, how old is he now? We're signing him.
Fujinami is 30.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, he's right in the age where, like, I mean, it's fine.
Now
it's
or never.
pretty standard time for kind of someone breaking in. But I guess my positive spin zone for all that, you know, I got to be the positive guy here. That's what I'm hired to do. That's what Chad's paying me to do. Just kidding.
No,
not getting paid. No, no. I think you know, to be fair, with last year's bullpen, injuries crushed him. Like, we got to be real here. Santos going down, and when he was up, not being necessarily what he has been, which, once again, I mean, it was what, like, he pitched like 9 innings, not even, maybe. And then Brash going down at the start of the year and then being out for the whole year, like, that sucked. We went from 3 obvious high leverage arms to 1 in the span of barely any time.
Which is why 3 is not enough. A 3 setup is great, but you need something behind him. And
absolutely, yeah, I agree.
For being a pitching team, we have a very small bullpen. I don't understand it.
Yeah, and I guess to address your point about how we just kind of keep signing these pile guys instead, or not like just an established reliever, I get that, and trust me, I mean, we don't need to go into the whole payroll crap like we always are going over. Yes, in a perfect world, we'd be able to go out and get a Tanner Scott right now. That would be sick. However, it's just like, when you look at what you got, I mean, we need bats. We don't necessarily like need relievers per se, especially if you look at, you know, we're going to get Brash at some point this year, and it's probably going to be towards the end of the first half ish. And then Santos will be back, and maybe he'll be, you know, it's that type of stuff. So it's like, okay, well, because Tanner Scott's probably gonna get around $20 million, maybe. I mean, he's gonna be
depends
up there.
On the team, but
depends on the team, but he's gonna be getting quite a bit of change. He's gonna be getting more than the Mariners' current reported budget.
No, I mean, for sure. I'm not saying guys like that. I mean,
I know what you mean.
Kirby Yates
and Robertson. I don't know if he was on this year, but I'm talking like David Robertson.
Yeah, he's still available.
Guys like that. I definitely get that.
Hoffman.
I think that
was scary with his physical.
Let me look at the what was the Mariners 2023 bullpen even look like? I'm gonna look at that.
A lot of the same guys, but performed way better.
So that's the thing is with the Mariners, right? You have to understand, you know, like, yeah, you can have certainly the mindset of like, oh, well, you can go get an established reliever, but it's like, they've gotten these guys who were kind of these misfits, and they've turned them into quality relievers. I mean, Munoz, we got him from the Padres. He was nothing before then necessarily. Trent Thornton was pretty good in 2023, and he was like fine last year. I mean, you know, I know there's kind of a whole thing about it, like inherited runners with him, whatever. Colin Snyder, Gabe Spire in 2023. I mean, he was not that great for like KC before he came here. So it's like you have this trend where your org has been able to do that, where they've been able to get these guys off the scrap heap and turn them into quality relievers, so you don't have to spend money on that. So it's like kind of hard when you still have all these glaring holes on offense, and you know you probably have to use just about your whole budget on that, to be like, well, we probably should spend some money on a reliever, which once again, in a perfect world, we both are on the same page. I'd rather they just spend money and get the guys who are good for sure. Mm-hmm. But you also like can't necessarily fault them for being like, we've done this before plenty of times. We could probably do this again, get some guys who are serviceable at least. You know, Munoz, you know who he's going to be. He's probably going to be, pretty good next year. You have Brash and Santos, blah, blah, blah. Don't want to go over that again. But, it's like you've done it before. I understand why they just think they can keep doing that over and over again. And there definitely may be a time where they can't do that anymore, or at least not as efficiently as they've done it before. It's just we don't necessarily know we're at that point yet. Is kind of the problem. So and then you also have all those glaring other holes that you need to spend money on. So
keep that thought process, because I do want to push back a little bit. Reed's blowing up the comments. So it's live. He's wondering why I'm not responding. How do I feel about the Dodgers spending situation? I just did a live video earlier about Roki. Go watch that. Full video on, and a not temper tantrum, but kind of. Go watch that video after this. It explained it. I hate pushing people away, but it's a little bit off topic here, so I don't really want to go over it. And I just did a whole video for it. And then Reed, who do you think will win the World Series this year? Dodgers, if they stay healthy. It's obvious.
If I were to put money on it, substantial money, I'd probably guess them again.
Yeah. I mean, they're better than they were last year, and last year they were dominant. So it's pretty obvious, unless they get injured. That's the bottom line.
Well, and you also have to remember the AL is also significantly
way worse
now. And so anyone who goes up against, what team in the AL can go against the Dodgers right now? No one, probably, unless they get lucky, which, and I will, positive spin zone again. Baseball's baseball. Things happen. Yes, absolutely. They could, it could happen. But then really your best hope for the World Series is that somehow another National League team, takes the Dodgers out before they get there. And then at that point, maybe, but who knows? So if I was to put money on it,
Oakland A's.
No, not yet. At least their pitching is the problem.
Way better.
It's better. However, it's not like enough yet, I think, to put them in the playoffs. Oh, sure. I'm not debating that. And their lineup has some really decent pieces in it. Mm-hmm. There is still more to be done before I can see them being like a playoff team. Now they could be, I see
in
the 70 wins.
Team.
Maybe.
I absolutely think that they are very much in line with the possibility of being a playoff team, especially playing in a AAA stadium. It's going to be a lot easier for them to hit in Sacramento. It's close enough to Oakland. They've signed the pitching that they need to hold batters in the park, and look how wide open they are.
I guess that is the wild card on the AL, is we have no idea what that's going to look like.
No idea.
So
I wanted to say the Red Sox, but honestly, I will only say the Red Sox can, and I'm saying playoffs, but initially we're talking about who would take down the Dodgers. I'm like, maybe the Red Sox, but they need to sign Bregman. Bottom line, they need to sign Bregman if they want to be a serious threat towards the Dodgers. And then all this hype around Marcelo Mayer and Roman Anthony, like, they need to come up and play. And Trevor Story needs to stay healthy and perform like he did when they first acquired him. Maybe the Red Sox, the Yankees, just the copium with the adding players just because they didn't get Juan Soto and saying, oh, it's a good thing. They're not. They might be better because their big names were not playing well. So I mean, Verdugo's still out there. He's not coming back. Torres is gone. They haven't signed a second baseman as far as I know. Or did I? No, I didn't miss anything. They still don't have a second baseman, I think. So whether or not they make a move for like Luis Ariz or whatever, there's a bunch of talk and speculation. I don't know if any of that's going to happen, but I guess the Yankees, and they were nothing close to what the Dodgers were. Like, realistically, the World Series was the Padres and the Giants last year. This year, it's not going to be the Padres. They're such a mess right now. They haven't made any moves. They've lost players. They haven't gained anything. And they have players that they're trying to get rid of because they're in their last year of the contract, and it's costing them a lot, and their ownership's in shambles at this moment. The Diamondbacks, maybe. The Phillies, if they don't fall on their face next season like they did this season. I mean, the Diamondbacks got way better. So I have nothing. Their pitching staff is strong, and
Yep.
They haven't really lost anybody besides Christian Walker, but they gained Josh Naylor. So they got a guy that's significantly younger who doesn't strike out, not as much power, but pretty good. And he's decent defensively. He's not as good as Christian Walker, but I don't think that's going to hurt them. Like maybe -1, like -1 game defensively. I don't think that's going to knock them out. They're definitely going to be in the wild card. But yeah, there's no team to take out the Dodgers at this point that I can see statistically on paper.
I mean, yeah, they're just the obvious pick for the World Series. It's kind of hard to really pick anyone else at this point. I mean, they've kind of just had their way with all the big free agents at this point. I guess other than Juan Soto, whatever. But like, I mean, the Mets might be an interesting team to watch out for. I mean, I could see them being kind of that spoiler team. Same with the Diamondbacks too. But you know, when you're looking at World Series, if the Dodgers make it to the World Series, I couldn't tell you what AL team really matches up with them apart from maybe the Toronto Blue Jays.
I
So-
would not put them
I'm making a joke. And sorry if there's
Okay.
any Toronto Blue Jay fans in here, but
Okay, I'm just making sure.
it's just been so ridiculous. I had to make a little joke.
Yeah,
but
the Blue Jays are they're going to make it. They're in on everything.
they almost make me feel better about the Mariners right now. And not necessarily, but I'm just like it almost, you know, I'm like, oh, they're feeling it over there. I feel bad for the fans.
Reed
there.
is like, so Reed, I'm gonna. And by the way, you're not being rude. He mentioned something. You're fine. That's the point of the live stream. But he says he put money in the Orioles. Look, the Orioles have a lot to figure out. They are a young team. Their
starting pitching is
yes.
Really bad.
Their starting pitching is the same. I don't know why they're doing this with new ownerships, but they are the new Cardinals. They decided to bring on the oldest starting rotation in baseball, and it didn't work for St. Louis. I don't know why you think it's going to work here. Sagano's 36. Yeah. Maton is it Maton? He's 42.
Well, and Maton was a reliever last year with the Mets, so that's a different.
I thought he was Braves. No, different guy. Hold on, it's not Maton.
Oh, no, you're talking about Morton,
not Maton.
Yes,
sorry.
Morton's like 40 years old.
He's 42. I know his age, but I forgot his name. I'm so used to hearing Maton, but yeah, Charlie Morton. Yeah. It's just like whatever. Kyle Bradish is still not going to be back. Grayson Rodriguez will be back, but he's definitely number 3. They're pitching. They need to figure it out, and now they're moving in the left field, so it's going to be harder to keep right-handed batters in the park at this point. It'll be great for Tyler O'Neill, but other than that, like, I'm sorry, the Orioles are a big question mark, and for them to make it to the World Series, they're going to have to take the number 2 slot in the wild card, given the fact that right now the number 1 and 2 for the wild card, if there's not a team that's it's hard to say, because the Yankees and the Red Sox are significantly better, I think, as an overall team now, especially with the signings. Like, their pitching is temporary. It's not the greatest, but it's still better than what the Orioles have. The fact that you have Walker Buehler, and I think he likes where he's going. I think it's going to work out for them, having Walker Buehler on that mound. They got Garrett Crochet. Like, you're putting one of the best left-handed pitchers against righties for that Green Monster. That's huge. That's going to get you at least, I think, 10 games more, 10 more wins next season. I'm not saying he's a 10 WAR player. I'm saying him going in there 10 out of his starts, the 10 games he starts there, it's going to get you a win, because right-handed batters are going to have a hard time hitting it out of the park, or even hitting it or pulling the ball at all off of him. So, yeah. And Reed mentions, he says, if they're older, they have more experience. That is not translatable to
baseball. Does and doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it is. It's experience and understanding how to correct and fix yourself, but performing that, instilling that into your actions on the field is a whole lot different. So I'm sorry, but like, I like the Orioles. I do like the team. I like how young they are, how competitive they are in their farm system. I think it's entertaining. It's great, but they fall on their face real quick, often too. So I it's just they're not a team that I see the Dodgers having a problem sweeping up off the floor, because like the Dodgers could have. I mean, they did. They kind of made the Yankees look silly, and the Yankees made themselves look silly as well with all the errors and just bad baseball altogether. And that's the best the AL has to offer. Like, I was rooting for the Guardians because at least they looked like a small ball team. And when I say that, they're not big power bats that were able to get runs across, hit the ball, get on base, like, and they look solid. They're consistent and they were clutch, but they just couldn't pull off against the Yankees because of a couple batters that.
Oh, and Giancarlo Stanton decided to have the best like playoff series of his life. So
yeah, and he stuck all season. So, man, slow as molasses.
Yeah. So I mean, I think the Guardians have a good shot at the World Series on the AL side this year. It's just a matter of like how do they replace Naylor? Because they're gonna have to in some capacity, but they have just really good pitching, good starting and bullpen. So, and they're a good defensive team. So it's like that's quite a big piece of the puzzle as far as being a World Series contender. Now it's just a matter of can they hit enough. We'll see. They were one of the best teams in the AL last year, and I mean, as long as they can somewhat replace Naylor, then they're going to be in a good spot, I think. Especially with a lot of AL teams kind of being a bit weaker at this point in time. So,
well, before you do take off, because I know you got to go, you only had a little bit of time on here. What's your thoughts on this whole Pete Alonso thing? It's a lot of smoke. I don't see the fire, but I mean,
I guess it depends what part of the Alonso thing you're talking about. Mariners.
Because there's nothing saying they shouldn't try.
Yeah, but that's the thing is we say that about everyone, and then just about everyone, and they don't try. I'm not necessarily convinced that they didn't try for Sasaki, but who knows?
No, I think they did. They just were ignored.
I think they did. Either they were ignored or they didn't really get past that first meeting, which I don't know why, but
they didn't even get it.
Whatever. I mean, it's not like the whole, mid-market thing really mattered ultimately.
I don't know if you saw my live stream. Like
I didn't yet, but I would imagine.
I was going off on not Roki, but his agent, and how just pointless the whole drag out was. Like, why? Why are we building this hype and lying, constantly lying, when there's no money to be made? It's like, it made officially Mr. Wolf is just a liar. He's the boy who cried wolf. Ironic that his last name is Wolf, and whatever he says to me now, it's like, shut up. I'm not listening to you because everything you say is BS. So I was mad. But as far as the Pete Alonso thing,
for the Mariners,
I don't see why not. Now, here's the thing. I will understand this pushback. You might throw this at me. You can be negative here. You don't have to be Mr. Positive, because I'm Mr. Positive on this. But the negative thing is he has a qualifying offer.
True.
Which means you lose draft picks if you pick him up.
But I think only one, though, right? Don't you only lose one?
I thought it was two. I thought it was second and fifth round or something like that.
Yeah. Outside of the qualifying offer thing, I mean, I don't really necessarily have anything to go against signing Pete, just because, I mean, I have maybe questions about like his personality and like how he would fit in the clubhouse, but ultimately, like, I don't think that's disqualifying unless someone's just like it's so obviously outwardly like a cancer in the clubhouse or something, which he's not. He's just a little weird.
I was going to say, well, he's kind of
just a little weird, and he's a little quirky boy, but that's fine. Yeah. So I think it's just a matter of, yes, they should absolutely pursue that. budgetary reasons, I don't think they will. I don't think they'll even call, just because, once again, the reported things like 14 million now, and it's like, trust me, I hate the fact I have to say this, and I disagree, and I want to make that as clear as possible that I disagree that this should even matter, but it does, unfortunately, in this case. That he's still going to want 22 to 25, if not a little bit more, $1 million. And even if they give him the opt-outs, and if he's only here for 1 year, it's still more money than they're probably going to be willing to do. I had Ben Ranieri on my channel last night, and that'll be up on Sunday. But he made a good point, and you have to say this about every free agent, is like they still need to choose you, and you need to think about it from the standpoint of, if, let's say, he gets that offer for 3 years with options, player options after the first year with the Mariners, and you can more or less probably assume it's more of a 1 to 2 year deal at that point, because the likelihood of him staying all 3 years is probably unlikely, because he's probably going to want to test the market again.
Mm-hmm.
Is Seattle the place he wants to go to bet on himself and get that contract year to try to test the market out in 2026 with how hard it is to hit here? Is Pete a lefty or a righty? He's a righty, right?
Yeah.
So that's another part. I mean, I don't necessarily think his power is like, oh, he can't get it over the fence or whatever.
He has great oppo power. You saw that in the playoffs.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. So that's not the point. It's just more of like, why would a free agent hitter choose Seattle of all places to go for basically a prove it 1 year, like, bet on myself deal?
I'll tell you why.
If
he can hit in Seattle, then his value goes up.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the way we can make it work is understanding that Garver and Haniger are going to be arbitration costs. All the money that when they leave is probably going to go to arbitration for our pitchers. But at that point, you have a backloaded system to where it's like, hey, 3 years, 75, 80 million, which is more than what we want to spend. It's, hey, you come in, you get 12 or 16, you get whatever was left in our budget, and we give you the rest the next year, and it's mutual option next year. So we can choose and you can choose. And then it's a player option the third year. So he can make that option, and it's more money next year and the following year. But if you change the whole dynamic of the Mariners are actually trying to win, you're going to get more sales, you're going to get more revenue coming in, you're going to be able to profit. So that
I agree.
Get that budget increase next year, like we did this year, of 10 million, which we're still going to like want to punch Stanton in the face. You can afford his contract because that increase goes into it. The 2 contracts that fall off, pay your arbitration, and he's still on the team. If you're like, hey, we want you to stay, you're getting 10 more million this year. If you stay here, you did well, then it could work. And then depending on free agents for pitchers, it could, if it needed to be, if we were really going to be this cheap, which I won't put it past ownership, we could trade Castillo, get him off the books, sign another pitcher that could be the number 5, Logan, Kirby, Miller, jump up to the number 1, depending on how they perform this next year. Woo, I could be it too. Who knows? But injury issues, I worry about him. Like there's a lot of avenues that they could take to make this work if he says yes. And if he doesn't do well, he still makes his money. But if he does do well, he can jet and make even more money, because it's like, this dude can hit at the worst park for hitters. We're going to pay him. So that's where I see his situation, why I think it would be reasonable. I'm not right, though, because I don't think the Mariners are going to try.
No, I don't either. But I will say, kind of like my last point and kind of responding to that, is like, yes, he could use, oh, hey, the fact that I hit in Seattle as a selling point for next year. Could. The problem is we're talking about millions of dollars here, and I think guys, when they're looking at quite literally a difference of potentially $10 million, let's say if he doesn't perform well for next year versus if he does. I just think they would rather just not take the risk, and they would rather go somewhere that is going to be a bit easier.
You're talking about Seattle?
I'm saying, yeah, I'm saying like, yes, he could come here
Yeah.
with the idea of like, if I rake here, people next year on the free agent market are going to be like, want me really bad and get me more money. Absolutely, that could happen. But when we're talking, if he doesn't, I mean, he could be losing out on up to $10 million a year potentially if he sucks. And so I doubt, because ultimately we're all humans here. Money is money, right? So
though, because if it's a backloaded contract, he's going to get paid
well,
if he decides to stay.
I guess. But the thing is DePoto and I mean, they've never done that. They've never done. I mean, the Garver deal was their first multi-year offensive deal that they've made in the DePoto era in general. And so I think the idea of assuming that they're going to do something way more complicated than what that was, and way more expensive potentially than that was, I'll believe it when I see it.
I'm getting someone way different than Garver.
Sure, but I want to make it clear once again, like, I'm not saying that I would just prefer the reality where we don't have to question whether they would try it, that they just do. And like you said, you know, it would show a little bit to this fan base that they actually give a shit to win, and this fan base needs that.
Yeah.
I don't think they're concerned about that. At least, I mean, I think Jerry wants to win. I don't necessarily think that the front office doesn't want to win. I just don't think Stanton and the ownership group care to win. I think if they did, they would not be total idiots and pass up the opportunity that they have been afforded with this pitching staff that they have and this core that is really solid. You have one of the best pitchers in the game. You have one of the best center fielders in the game. You know, I'm not necessarily going to say JP is one of the best shortstops in the game, obviously, and I'm not going to assume that he's going to replicate his 2023, because quite literally that was his one like really good year ever. So, but the core is there in Julio, the core is there with Cal, the core is there with the entire starting rotation. And you also have those X Factor guys like Randy Rosarena. He's going to be a bit more relaxed this year, probably, and a bit more willing to, you know, try more often. And Victor Robles is that wild card too, where like he's not going to put up the same numbers he did when he came to Seattle. He's not going to put up a 340 something batting average, something ridiculous like 160 WRC plus.
Yeah, he's going to put up a 350 WRC plus.
I hope so. But he has the potential. I mean, I was talking about it once again with Ben last night. It's like, even if as long as that dude gets on base, he can steal second and he can steal third on quite literally any catcher in the game. He can change the game so much and be so valuable. He also just needs to stop bunting so much. If he can just do that, that would be great.
Is that him, or is that the team telling
I have no idea, but whoever it is needs to stop, because it doesn't need to be that often. It can be sometimes. I'm not against a bunting per se. It's just, it was getting a bit ridiculous how often. But
Active is, I think, got moved, so I don't think he's the third base coach anymore.
Yeah, I don't know if it was Acta's call. I don't know if it was Wilson's call. I don't know if it was Rose's call, but
with Julio off the bag with Randy Rosarena's
whoever it was needs to stop. But with that said, like, yes, I would love for them to go after Pete Alonso. I think it would be good if they signed him. But I will believe it when I see it, and I would be quite literally genuinely shocked if they did. So I'd honestly be genuinely shocked if a report came out that they were bidding for his services. So
I don't think that's where I'm at. We're not going to hear anything about it. That's just how the Mariners work. They're not going to say anything unless they are firing somebody. Then they'll leak it out before they even tell the player or the coach.
Yep.
Because that's what they're known for. So I don't think we're going to hear anything about it. I'm hoping and I'm praying the possibility that Shintaro works out in AAA and he comes up and he's a good setup guy for Matt Brash, as Munoz is probably going to have back issues. This is just my projection.
When he's throwing high leverage innings in August, I'm going to come back to you and be like, I told you.
Okay. And if he blows the playoff race by one game, I'm gonna come back to you and be like,
Fair enough.
I
Fair
told
enough.
you. My camera died, so I had to switch over to my other one. But yeah, as far as the Pete Alonso thing, I'm hoping it's a Corbin Burns situation. I'm hoping that it's nobody had them on the radar and just says, screw it, let's do this.
Mhm.
You know, and it's like, okay, like he's offering it to us. We should take it. Stanton, John, Mr. Stanton, Mr. I don't want to spend a damn dollar, even though I'm a chairman of multiple companies, including Microsoft, Costco, Columbia Outwear. He's runs a telecommunication company. He's a chairman on T-Mobile. You have money, dude. This whole idea that he doesn't have liquid money, I think, is total bullshit. So just stop being an asshole. We know. We hate you for it. And if you want us to like you, which it sounds like from what insiders say, he thinks people like him. We don't, because you do this to us, because we just want our city to have something to celebrate over, and you can't give it to us. So
If you can get an in-stadium Chipotle, I will forgive you for the rest of my life. That's all I'll say on it.
I'm so
I
out
love
on that.
Chipotle.
I will bring you
I love Chipotle.
and we'll just sneak it into a bag and bring
I think
it
you
in.
can bring it into the stadium on its
Oh,
own
you
by
can't bring-
itself, but
you can't
yeah.
bring drinks, right?
I think you can bring food too. I'm fairly positive.
Really?
I've
You
heard
can bring
people.
food. I don't think you can bring drinks though.
Well, no, you can't bring in drinks. But I
Yeah.
have learned that if you get the souvenir cup, you can just bring it with you again
Fill it
and
up.
use
Yeah.
that. So I'm going to use that for opening day. So give him more money.
Don't. Yeah.
It's going to help.
It's actually gonna deal. Yeah, we should do a PSA. Just bring your. They'll take it away from us. So just
Everyone donate $10,000 and then we can actually sign some players
to this podcast, and then we'll collectively keep track of
Yes.
it, and then we will go out and get Pete Alonso ourselves.
Yeah.
Every single person on YouTube give us
Only get a small cut. Yep.
Yeah. If we can get 1 billion people to donate $1, we can get Pete Alonso for the rest of his career in Seattle. Plus we can go get Anthony Santander and Alex Bregman. I'm in. We just need everybody on YouTube. 1 billion.
And break.
Yeah,
there we go.
Thank you, Jake, for joining me. If you guys haven't already,
Thank you.
shoot over to Raise the Trident on YouTube. He's got a good channel there. A lot of people he's interviewing and talking to.
Big video tomorrow morning.
One of the nicest guys you're ever going to find in the Mariners fandom. And I thank you for trying to cheer me up. I am still. You brought me from a 2 to a 4 out of 10.
I'll take
on
it.
him. So
I'll take it.
There we go. Alrighty. Bye, everybody.